Hello. Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Tech Tuesday. And I'm going to take a back seat tonight because I'm going to get some more professional people to do the presentation for us. So I'm going to share my screen and I need to share the sound. Um, and we're going to be listening to a group from Wisdom Builders who are sharing the training from Eric Worre. So let me just hide all these bits and pieces and hide me out of the way. Right. And there we go.
Hey, well, welcome everybody to week 12 of our Eric Worre training. We are currently on a journey through recruiting mastery. So we started last week. So that was kind of part one. This is part two. I think we're going to have to go to part three because there's just so much good stuff to kind of roll in here. What you'll probably find is that a lot of this feels familiar because recruiting mastery really is the same principles, the same best practices as our sales mastery series that we did. We did that, I think, weeks 8, 9, and 10. And so if you haven't caught the sales mastery, you can go back and catch that. But a lot of it feels similar because if you think about it, what we do to promote our products and our health supplements and our line that way is very similar to what we do to try to recruit promoters. And it's really important that we get good at this part because we can be salespeople and we can sell supplements and we can make some good money doing that. But we miss out on the opportunity to leverage if we are not recruiting other promoters. So this is really where we increase our business on an exponential level, is when we can start recruiting this way. So that's what I want to make sure we're taking the time to go through this thoroughly, because this is such an important concept of what we're doing. So week 12, so back on week 11, we got through 1 through 3 numbers. We talked about conversations. We talked about how to transition into an invitation. That doesn't have to happen all in one day, all in one week even. Your conversations are developing relationships, developing rapport, and sometimes that takes time. If you have a new neighbor, you don't walk over and introduce yourself and say, hey, I got this side hustle that I want to introduce you to. You have to develop the relationships. And so sometimes that takes a fair amount of time. We talked about your business story last week and how that's important. We're all pretty good with our health story, but we need to get better about our business story. And if we're not comfortable with our business story at the moment, then we can leverage somebody else's business story that might better align with the person that you're talking to. So third-party resources, we went through those. Those should have looked familiar because they were the same third-party resources that we talked about in the sales mastery cycle as well. So that's kind of where we're going to pick up, because truly 5 through 10, it's kind of a cycle, and you'll see how this works with just cycling through. We're going to talk about how to craft questions, exposing people to the business opportunity, seeing where they are they ready for a yes or a no? If not, then we give them more exposure, we ask more questions. And so that's kind of an ongoing cycle, and we'll talk more about that. But because Eric Worre, this is the hill he's going to die on. People pay him lots of money to work one-on-one with him, but he will not work with you if you're not willing to embrace third-party resources. That's how strongly he feels, because people are paying a lot of money, and those people want to get far, get fast. And the best way to grow big, grow fast, and to expand your business rapidly is using third-party resources. So I'm going to trust the source. I'm going to trust the expert. That's why you can use these in your sales and in your recruiting mastery. So tools Tools are anything that's a video, that's a handout, that's, something you can send via a link that explains. And a tool for recruiting, you might simply introduce, say, if I sent you a short video that explains this better than I ever could, would you take a look? Another third-party resources are stories, and we've talked about these, right? So using stories, I didn't think it would work for me, but I don't know, once I learned there were other teachers who are doing this and making a difference and making some pretty good part-time money. I don't know, I decided I would give it a try. So that's how my story might go. Another third-party resources is people. There are people on this call, there are people in our teams, there are people in our lives, in our team, right? That are more than happy that, you can tap into them. And you say, somebody on my team understands this much better than me. Even if you think you know everything, right? Still tapping into other people gives you that additional credibility, validity that other people are buying into this too. Other people are doing well. Maybe other people are kind of at the same place, but those are our people resources. And then of course, vets. We've got a short Zoom that walks you through everything really clearly. Corporate does a fabulous job. If I sent you some details, would you be able to attend? So those are how we use our third-party resources. And because Eric Worre swears by them and emphasizes them so much, I thought it was worth reviewing. So tonight we're going to talk a lot about this idea that fortune is in the follow-up. But I want you to avoid the third-party trap or third-party resource trap that I fell into. Because I could find the links, the videos to send people, the information, our fast facts, all kinds of stuff I could send. But then I was terrible at the follow-up. It doesn't matter how good your third-party resource is. If you don't follow up, then, it's not a very effective strategy. So just don't fall into that trap, because I did. So there's my warning. So this idea, and it's important to understand that the decision to start a business, it is rarely decided in one night. Oops, I think I accidentally skipped. Or one moment or one day. Really, it's not like trying to convince somebody that they should just try our supplements for 1 month. Give it a month. People are going to take more time, and this decision to build a business, for most people, happens over time. So this fortune in the follow-up, it does not happen in the first conversation. It does not usually happen in the first exposure. And what we have found is that many people are scared to follow up. And I think what it really I know we get busy and we get distracted, but I think most people, if they're fighting a fear, they're fighting against the fear of a no. And when we go all the way back and we talk about the importance of mindset and the importance of detaching from the outcome, this is where it's so important. Because a lot of follow-up, you're opening that gate again, you're opening up risk again. And so people are often scared that they're going to hear a no. And so that is where, if you're detached from the outcome, then you don't feel as vulnerable. If you're focused on the process instead of the outcome, then you're less attached to it, right? So, and a lot of times people aren't saying no. They're just, you can remember, a lot of times it's just a not yet. And especially in prospecting for our promoters, people are more apt to maybe give you a no if they really mean it. Or I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that when the process is strung out and delayed a little bit, they're still unsure and they haven't said no. So some continued conversation is valuable. And we're actually going to see how that pans out in a little bit. So when working with a potential prospect, you're going to get questions. You might get some objections. But it's important to remember that questions and objections are not rejections, right? Especially questions, and objections have a different feel to them, and we'll talk about that. But questions. So as a teacher, after I'm done presenting, what I feel is a fabulous lecture or whatever, I've talked for 20 minutes to my students. I'll usually end with, all right, so what kind of questions do you have? And let me just tell you, as somebody who's presenting, that if people have questions, my students have questions, oh, it just warms my heart, because that means, number one, I didn't bore them to death. They're attentive, right? They're paying attention. Their wheels are turning. They're making connections, or they want clarity. They're looking for clarification. So if they're asking questions, it means I've probably done a pretty good job. Maybe I wasn't as clear as I needed to be, but I certainly gave enough information to stimulate interest. Questions signal interest. Now, objections have a different feel. Objections may feel like attacks if, again, you're attached to the outcome. But if you think of objections as just opportunities to continue to build relationships, build rapport, build an organic conversation, educate people on how we help people build businesses, they can help you add value. So addressing objections, and I don't even like to say countering objections, I like addressing objections, is an important part of what we do. Professionals just don't see questions and objections as the enemy. They see them as opportunities. So you'll typically run against, in our world of network marketing, you're going to run up against two different types of objections. Almost all of them either fall in one of two categories. Either the person that you're working with has a limiting belief about themselves, why they can or can't do something, or the person has a limiting belief about network marketing, the tool, the instrument, the business model. So if they have a limiting belief about themselves, it might sound like, oh, I don't know, I'm not a salesperson. Or, oh my gosh, I don't have time to breathe, much less anything else. Or, I don't have any money to invest in anything. Or maybe something like, I don't know enough people. So if they're unsure about their ability to run a business, develop a business, that's one bucket that you're going to pull from, right? The other type of objections that are common are limiting beliefs about network marketing in general. And it might sound like this. Is that one of those pyramid schemes? Or, oh, that's one of those companies. That's one of those things where only the top people make any money, right? Or they might just come out and say, I don't know, network marketing, it's got kind of a bad reputation. Or maybe they feel the other way and they're like, oh, that sounds too good to be true. It can't be that easy. When you understand what category the objection falls into when you're dealing with objections, your response can become clearer. So I'm going to walk us through a couple of things. So when you're responding either to questions or objections, you don't need a script, you just need a formula or a structure. And we talked about this in the sales mastery class as well. Here is your structure. The first step is really quite easy. Well, easy for some of us, some of you, maybe not me even. We're going to listen. We're going to listen without interrupting. We're going to value everything that they have to say, and we're going to learn from what they have to say. You're going to somehow relate to what they've said. You're going to introduce your business story or maybe somebody else's. And again, this isn't a long, drawn out paragraph. You're not, on stage, spitting out, 10 minutes worth of stuff. This happens in a very short period of time, and you'll see. And then the important part is asking this question, this last step. And there are different ways to do it, but keep it simple. If I blank, would you blank? Now let's see I'll kind of show you one other way to boil this concept down. And then we're going to see some examples, because I don't know about you, but I learn best. Just show me a couple of really good examples and I can roll with that, right? So maybe you like this. It's the same really structure. It's just might be easier to remember. The whole feel, felt, found. And you can simply boil an objection down to, oh yeah, I understand how you feel. You know, I felt the same way. But here's what I found out. And I would explain something. Or maybe if I didn't feel the same way. And this is the added value of getting to know our family, our Neil Life family. Because when you're presented with an objection, you might, oh yeah, I understand for you how you feel. You know, my Neil Life BFF, they felt the same way too. Here's what they found. So knowing the stories, the business stories of other people is important too. And then we want to kind of follow up with this question, and you'll see that formula, that structure. So if I sent you a video, would you be willing to watch somebody who explains this much better than me? Now, when you ask that question, most people will probably tell you yes, sure. Or, I don't know, I'm really busy. And then you might say, it doesn't have to be this week or even this month if it's really a bad time for you. You know, I can follow up and send you something, you know, in July after school's out if you're like really crazy trying to finish up the school year. So again, they've kind of given you a little bit of an objection. You found a little bit of a solution without being too pushy. If they say yes, then this is where you want to try to get specific. If they, sure, I'll watch it. And say, okay, well, okay, I'll send something then tonight. And can I reach out to you in a day or so to get your thoughts on it? I'd like to know what you think, you know, what you liked best. Give them a task when they're either watching a video or they're reading through the fast facts. And then they'll respond maybe like, you know, sure, next week works. That's when we try to nail things down. So what day works best for you? Because I want to put it on my calendar, because if I don't put it on my calendar, I will forget. I'm just like that. And so I definitely want to try to get back to you. So tell me what day works best for you. And then they're going to give me a day. I'm like, okay, do you want me to call, I don't know, what's morning, afternoon, evening, or maybe you personally are only available on an evening. And they're like, oh, evenings won't work. So then you rehash something out. But letting them know that you're going to put it on your calendar and you're trying to work it in a time that works best for them. It's like, are evenings okay? I mean, my daughter's always wrapped up with bedtime routine with all the kids. Does evening work for you okay? You want to make sure they understand that, you know, you're sympathetic to everything else that they've got going on in life. Use this when you start practicing it and using it. It becomes very organic. It becomes very natural. It doesn't seem like a script. It should really feel to you conversational in nature. So again, just reiterating this idea, because they were nailing this home. They talked about this a lot. You know, once you know what issues are, professionals can handle objections and questions with a question in return. So if I could, would you? Or if I, would you? Again, you're going to practice working on that. We're going to give you some examples to show you exactly what that looks like. And one other point to make is that what this does, this shifts the conversation from resistance, especially if there's an objection involved, to a possibility. You know, you're not here to debate or argue with somebody. You're offering this path forward. And only because we know we have something that could likely help them out. Now, here's what is important to hear too. We are not trying to twist somebody's arm to do something that they don't want to do. Okay, that's not going to benefit anybody. And if they're not really ready, they talk about being willing, coachable, and hungry. And if they're not there, then maybe this isn't the right time to build a business. That doesn't mean you cross them off your list. That might mean timing is not ideal. But I don't want you to feel like you're trying to twist somebody's arm or back them into a corner. So this is what some of the objections or responses to objections might look like. So remember, we talked about 2 buckets. So this is the bucket where, they have their own limiting beliefs. And if you remember talking about limiting beliefs, I love that statement that while your belief may be true, it doesn't have to be your truth. I'm going to say that again. While your belief may be true, it doesn't have to be your truth. I don't have enough time. That might be true, but it doesn't have to be your truth. It doesn't always have to be like that. I'm not a salesperson. Oh my gosh, that was true with me. I'm a great educator, but I am not a good salesperson. So that may be true, but it doesn't have to be my truth. I fully believe I can become a great salesperson. My husband would tell you his truth. I don't know anybody. He would say that was his truth or that was true, but that doesn't have to be his truth because he's already going out and having conversations with total strangers. And he comes home and he's so excited because he's had a conversation with a total stranger. So anyway, so let's see what some of this could actually look like. Let me move some of these menus around in action. Because again, I like to see examples. So the response or the objection is, I just don't have enough time. Try to sympathize, understanding, right? Oh gosh, I remember those days so well. And I don't know how you do it. You have so much on your plate. But if I could show you how to carve out just a little bit of time each week to invest in your family or in your future, and what if we did if we did it together, would you be willing to take a look at this? What if their objection is, which would have been mine, I'm not a salesperson. Again, we sympathize. Oh my gosh, I know, I get sweaty palms just thinking about it. Me too. But you know what? If I could show you how to get involved and not feel uncomfortable like some kind of a weird, over-the-top, hardcore salesperson, show you a way that you could actually help people get a great product, people who need products get great products, and you get paid along the way, would you be willing to explore some more with me? Or that person who says, I just don't know anyone. It's like, well, you and my husband were in the exact same boat. But what if I could show you a way to brainstorm and create a list of people? I don't know, people from your community, from the social media, the gym, kids at your school, or the parents of the kids, or I don't know. What if I can show you how to create a candidate list just long enough to justify joining? We could experiment with this. Would you be willing to work with me to create that list? Have you picked up on something that I'm doing so far? Hopefully you've picked up on my offer to help them. Because, our philosophy, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. They need to hear that. Most people have never successfully launched a business. And the idea of that can be very scary. So they need to hear that there are supports from you, from corporate, from our team. They need to hear that. They need to see that. And again, that's where this whole third-party resources, that's where that comes into play as well. And another thing, somebody might respond, I've already got a good job. I'm happy. I'm not really looking for anything. Well, I would tell that person, first of all, I would congratulate them for, how blessed is somebody that really likes what they do, because most people don't. But what if I can show you how, others in the same situation that, just by committing a few hours a week, they were able to build a plan B or their own business, if that's ever something that interests you. Or maybe this could even be something, I don't know, you've got teenage kids. Maybe it's something that you could do as a family, as a team, and golly, all the leadership qualities that your kids could learn from this by watching you, by being involved. I don't know. Is that something you would be open to talking about? So you've taken an objection and you've just spun a new idea, a new way of looking at it. So those are a lot of the most common objections for personal limiting beliefs that people have. Now, if they have a belief, a preconceived notion about network marketing, then it might look a little different. Here are some of the ones that we talked about already. Oh, this sounds like a pyramid scheme. I might just respond that, that's an excellent thought or question. We actually get that one a lot. But what if I could show you how we operate more like a discipleship model? I mean, we sell real products to real people, and we just simply cut out big box retail stores. Would you be willing to take another look? Or if their response is, only the top people, they're the only ones making any money. Well, what if I could show you how people you can at least break even in your first month or so, right? It honestly doesn't take much because it only takes $75 to start. Would you be willing to keep going down this process or keep an open mind? I mean, the truth is, I am certainly nowhere near the top, and I don't know, I make enough money to pay half my mortgage at my lake house. I don't know how much money would be worth your time. So those are the types of questions that are going to get them thinking, right? And you've dispelled some of the myths. What if they're convinced that, network marketing, God, it's got a bad reputation. I don't know if I want to get involved with that. My response might be, I hear that sometimes, and I find it really odd. Because, as a teacher, I get paid exactly the same as somebody else who has worked my same number of years, has my same level of expertise. But, I can put in 70 and 80 hours a week, and sometimes I do. And I got coworkers who regularly, they're 40-hour-a-week people. So what if I could show you how our model with Neolife is one of the fairest business opportunities? Because I can tell you, I get paid the exact same amount. And I work twice as hard as a lot of people. If I had spent all of that time working in Neolife, then I don't know, maybe I'd be retired. But would you be willing to look at something? Because I see this as a fair model. Would you be willing to do a deeper dive? Now, if I'm honest, I probably talked too much right through that one. Again, these are things I've got to pare it down too. Sometimes I think, what if it's too good to be true? It can't possibly be that easy. Hear that sometimes. My response would simply be, well, while it's a win-win, I don't know, it's a win-win business opportunity. I don't want to make it sound like it's a cakewalk, because it does require work. But if I could show you how our systems and our support set you up for success, would you be open to taking a look at how beautifully this thing works? So those are some of the most common concerns that people have about network marketing.
I'm going to stop it there because we're almost out of time. Has anybody come across those same objections? And how complicated do you make it to respond to them? Very good. we tend to overcomplicate things. I know I'm guilty party number one on that. So I think we need to spend a little bit more time looking at these trainings and actually not just looking at the trainings, but putting it into action and trying it, playing with it. You go back to these recordings, use some of these simple little tips. We're not talking high technology, we're talking face to face. And with Eric Worre's trainings, sorry, Eric Worre does do quite a bit of technical, but at the end, at the bottom line is the basic situation is exactly the same, online or offline. It is relationships, it's listening to people. And right now, our market is wide open because the world is in a bit of a mess. Next week, fuel prices are going up again. We thought we were conned into thinking we were getting away with it, that it wasn't going to be such a big whack at the beginning of this month. But they've got to make up for it somewhere along the line. And that's happening next week. Fortunately, nothing gets transported in this country on diesel, right? So, what's going to happen is food prices are skyrocketing. And as a result, jobs are getting scarcer. There's places up in the Middle East where people who have been working over there have had to get out the country. They don't know if they've got a job to go back to. Quite often, quite probably, a lot of them don't have jobs to go back to. Now, these are young lifestyle people who they've been bitten by the bug of traveling, freedom, but they still want to earn a nice income. And they are world travelers. This is a work from phone business. So we need to be able to look at not just the standard objections, but look at some of the newer objections as well. Imagine approaching Charlie now and saying, "Hey, this is a Facebook business. Would you like to join us?" Wouldn't you think he's going to join? I don't think so. So if he had approached me back in those days as well and said, "Look, you've got to go knock door to door and sell products like they did back then," I wouldn't be in this business. So we've got to adapt. I think it was old Shakespeare who said, "Adapt or die." But we've got to adapt. The bottom line is the same. And you'll find that the objections are more or less the same as well, regardless. So we just need to be able to put people's minds at rest and let them know this is a business. It is not an overnight get rich quick scheme business. Those things don't exist. It does require work. And I do believe that we do tend to oversimplify things at times and say, "Oh, you sign up and you'll make a lot of money." No, it's not going to work like that. But it is something that, if done correctly, and we just need to work on the systems and train people on the systems, and it can work. So I'm going to stop my recording now because we have less than a minute left.